Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, if you're looking for a scary movie filmed or set in and around Pittsburgh, you have got so many to choose from masterpieces like Night of the Living Dead and Silence of the Lambs to the lesser known, quirkier ones like Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh. There really is something for almost anyone. And to help you get in the Halloween spirit, our team has watched and is ready to not only rate a bunch of these movies, but also share our picks for the perfect local treat to pair with them. And stick around after this episode. Executive producer Mallory Falk is staying on for a conversation sponsored by Tree Pittsburgh about all the ways to experience our city's beautiful trees. It's Thursday, October 17th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I am here with producers Mallory Falk and Sophia Lowe, as well as Hey Pittsburgh editor Francesca DeBecco. First things first, is anyone among us actually into scary movies?
No, not really.
Francesca and I are no's.
As long as the gore isn't too extreme, or if there is a lot of gore, if it's extremely fake looking, then yes, I am a scary movie fan.
Okay, Sophia?
I'm not even a movie person. I simply do not have the attention span. Halloween right now is for Agatha all along. Nothing else matters to me.
That's a long TV show, though. Like, you're watching half a movie.
Yeah, but half. Once a week.
I wonder if this hurts our credibility that only a quarter of us are actually into scary movies.
I mean, if we were ranking these movies based on horror, I would agree with you. But that's part of the game here today. We thought it would be fun to watch some of these horror films and thrillers shot in and around our region. Many of them also set here, which is kind of cool. Of course, this is not going to be a comprehensive list. We've narrowed it down to 7 because a few of us truly cannot be trusted to stick with just one. But we're going to start with some classics, move on to some lesser known films, but we have a very specific rating policy for all of this.
Yeah, so plot summary first, our general impressions, but we are rating these not based on how scary they are or how good of a horror movie they are. We are rating them on how Pittsburgh these movies are.
Yes.
And our system is 1 to 5 bridges.
I love it. And of course, because this is actually our Thursday food show, we will be pairing each film with the perfect snack or treat.
Or a full meal.
Yeah.
I am so excited to hear what everyone has to say. Mallory, I think you're starting us off with the first of our George Romero triple feature.
Yes, it only makes sense to start with George Romero because he is, a huge part of the reason that Pittsburgh has become this horror film mecca. He is the filmmaker responsible for Night of the Living Dead, which is really credited with kicking off the zombie genre. In his film, they're called ghouls, but they were really kind of the first zombies. He made a bunch of follow-ups to that.
Are they the first zombie? I feel like I've seen like a bunch of stuff about whether it's really the first zombie film. I feel like it's fair to say they kicked off like the modern day zombie craze.
Yeah, the way I've heard it phrased is that it made them popular. Like he's credited for making it like not just the creation of a zombie, but that it became the thing that it is today.
Yeah.
Also, Sophia, we're in Pittsburgh. We have to claim we're first at everything, even if we're not. So for the purposes of this show, George Romero single-handedly brought zombies to our screens.
So Pittsburgh.
So Mallory, which one did you pick?
Yeah, so I picked the classic Night of the Living Dead. I just think your scary movie season is not complete without this one. It premiered in 1968 and actually had its premiere in downtown Pittsburgh at what's now the Byham Theater. So quick plot summary, just in case you're not familiar, this centers on a bunch of strangers who end up at this rural farmhouse the night of a zombie attack and their fight to stay alive.
I feel like a really bad Pittsburgher because I've never seen this movie. Mallory, you said it's essential to Halloween movie watching. So far, you're selling me on it on like its niche Pittsburghness. So tell us some more. Why should we be watching this?
Yeah, how Pittsburgh is it?
Yeah. So I think that unfortunately this one only gets maybe 2 bridges because it was actually filmed in and around Evans City. And while Pittsburgh is mentioned, it's not really a Pittsburgh film. It opens with a brother and sister driving out from Pittsburgh to a cemetery in a more rural area to visit their father's grave, talking about how they should probably move his grave into the city so that they can visit it more easily. So that's kind of the main Pittsburghiness of it. It's really more of kind of a rural setting.
But what's more Pittsburgh than having to go outside the city to visit your family members' gravestone?
That's fair. And complaining about the drive and the traffic.
Yeah, and then spending longer than you meant to going through a cemetery. Like,
okay, I'm going to bump this up to 4 bridges.
It's a sliding scale, but not a sliding bridge.
yeah. What about your snack pairings?
Yeah, what are we eating?
So, I mean, one of the things that Night of the Living Dead is so famous for was that it was done on such a low budget. It was made for just over $100,000. And so I learned that in all of the scenes where people are eating human flesh, this was actually meat donated by a local butcher, ham, covered in chocolate syrup.
What?
No.
That's so nasty. I'm not eating that.
So, yes, give me a second here because I'm not suggesting that you like pull up a plate of ham and douse some chocolate syrup over it and make that your snack. But I was trying to think about what's like the tastiest version of that, which I think is actually mole, right? Meat with like a spicy chocolate sauce on top. So I was thinking about an episode we did a little while ago about the best Mexican food in Pittsburgh, and our guest on that show recommended El Rincón Huaqueño for some of the best mole in the city. It's got a food truck location in Lawrenceville and also a brick and mortar in Carrick. So I'd say if you want to watch Night of the Living Dead and you don't just want to snack on, I don't know, some like jelly brain candy, but have a full meal, you could get some takeout from El Rincón Huaqueño and have your mole while you watch these zombies eat flesh.
That's actually really smart. I was not sure how you were going to turn ham and chocolate into something good, but you did it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
We're trying to give you legitimate food recommendations here.
And just a reminder, you can see Night of the Living Dead at Row House in Lawrenceville on Halloween, October 31st at 8:25 p.m.
And there are also tours at that cemetery in Evans City. They do them every year around this time, so look for those.
Yep.
Okay, Megan, I know you've got the next one in our Romero trilogy.
Yeah, so I watched Creepshow from 1982, and y'all, it is so 1982. Like the vibes, the slasher nature of things, it just feels very rooted in its time. But it's 5 separate short films, so like one feature-length thing, but within it there are 5 movies. There's like an opening scene that sets up the whole thing and tells you that it's like a comic book farce, and then it goes into each of these like 5 pieces, but they're all like
little vignettes.
Yeah, they're vignettes, but they're also like, I didn't realize the comic book nature, like quite how comic bookish this whole thing would be.
I love comic books and, little pieces. Maybe that's how you get me to watch a full movie.
There's a fair amount of like cartoonishness to it. I gotta be honest, I did not love it, which I'm sad to say because it was written by Stephen King and directed by George Romero, like 2 absolute patriarchs of the horror genre. But it's really one of the worst movies I think I have ever seen.
Oh no.
It's so misogynistic. Like every female character is like problematic for a variety of reasons. They like kind of have this like get what it's coming to them kind of vibe.
Oh, no.
In some respects, like they're abused or they're like a shrew, so they must now be eaten by some creature. It's super weird. But anyway, so the themes of the whole thing, there's a kid that's upset with his abusive father. Seems fair. There's a murderous father who gets done in by his patricidal daughter. There's a farmer and a meteor that slowly turns he and his land into something that looks kind of like the Grinch skin, like the Christmas
Ew.
thing. Yeah, which is actually Stephen King. He acts that whole part.
Oh, wow.
I did not love the portrayal, I'm going to be honest, but he gave it a shot. And then there's a deranged sort of vengeful beach movie. To me, that one was the best one. It had the highest caliber actors, I think, and they kind of save it, but the story makes no dang sense to me. There's like a scene with somebody's buried in sand like you do for fun at the beach with your friends. but there's a crab sort of nibbling at a face for a
Oh,
minute.
no.
It gets unpleasant. And then there's one about professors dealing with this like 150-year-old monkey thing. It's like this, it looks like sort of a jungle monkey, but it's allegedly from the Arctic. None of the details in this movie make sense. Like they do
None
not
of this
hold up.
sounds fun to watch, honestly.
It also doesn't sound super Pittsburgh, at least not the beach story.
Yeah, actually, that one is the one that is shot in Jersey, off the coast of Jersey.
Woo, Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Okay, representation for Sophia, but not for the rest of us.
I know. Yeah, like I guess there was a house in Monroeville where a few of these were shot, like the family one. And like there was a man obsessed with cockroaches in another that's like this like sparse white space that was probably like a soundstage. The only one that like feels even remotely identifiably Pittsburgh is the one about professors because they use a CMU building that's still there. But like it could be any college. Like because I know which one it is, I pulled it up on Google and I was like, oh yeah, I've been there. But like otherwise, no. I would give this like a half a bridge, like one half of a bridge out of 5 bridges.
A crumbling bridge.
One crumbling bridge. Yes.
A falling bridge.
It's not Pittsburgh at all. But that said, my food pairing, I would go with a nice crab cake from, say, Woolies, for
Nice.
example. Maybe a nice green salad for our Grinchy friend.
Oh.
And then for the cockroaches, maybe just like a package of those like trolley gummy candies. Like just pop them one after the other.
And I will round out our Romero triple feature with Martin or Vampire. This movie was made in 1977. Content warning, there's sexual assault and rape in this movie, but it's about this young adult, Martin, who gets sent to Braddock to live with his uncle. His uncle believes Martin's a vampire.
Based on what evidence?
A family curse.
Oh.
It kind of unclear whether Martin is or is actually not a vampire. The movie leaves it like a little ambiguous and up for interpretation.
Oh, I like an ambiguous horror film.
But maybe this one's for you because like a lot of people seem to really like this, say it's like an underrated Romero movie. You know, it's a vampire movie, so there is some blood in it. If that makes you squeamish. And it was actually filmed in Braddock, so I would give it 3 out of 5 bridges, I think. I mean, there's also like a nice shot of Penn Station, Union Station, whatever you want to call it, the fancy apartment building now, when Martin first arrives in the Pittsburgh area and then, you know, takes another train to Braddock. I read in Penn Live that Romero picked Braddock as a location because, quote, the industrial town reflected the bygone days of traditional vampirism.
Oh.
Okay.
I think it's like a very different take on a vampire if you're interested in that. I am more into Buffy the Vampire Slayer and What We Do in the Shadows, like vampires being goofy. This is less of a goofy movie. But, you know, like I said, lots of people who are into Romero think this is like a really different thing that he's produced.
And Sophia, didn't you say that Romero also said this was his favorite of his films?
That's what it said on Wikipedia when I went to research this as my first
Okay.
plot summary. Did not fact check that part.
Okay, so this was allegedly, potentially, Romero's favorite film.
Yes, allegedly, potentially. And then as for my snack, I would pair this with some locally made soda, really lean into that blood element. Red Ribbon, bonus points for the red flavors like cherry and I think the Pennsylvania Punch also could be a good option. That's like grape, so dark reddish too.
Okay, so moving out of Romero territory, but keeping with the classics, Megan, you've got another hit for us.
Yes, I don't think any Pittsburgh discussion of horror movies is complete without Silence of the Lambs.
It's been ages since I've seen it. I don't know that it's something that I want to seek out, but maybe you'll convince me here today. If you give me a good enough snack pairing.
I'm most confident about this one. So Silence of the Lambs, if you are unfamiliar, came out in 1991. It's sort of a murder mystery. Mostly, I think of it as more of a thriller. FBI rookie Clarice Starling, a.k.a. Jodie Foster, has turned to a convicted murderer to try to help solve a different string of crimes. They're trying to catch a serial killer, Buffalo Bill. Famously has Hannibal Lecter, which unfortunately we've all heard about in the news a lot lately. But so it all kind of revolves around the crimes which are happening in one place, and then Clarice, the FBI person, and Hannibal, who she's constantly consulting with in different kinds of capacities. But this one I would give like 4 to 5 bridges out of 5 because it is It feel like it's there's a ton of Pittsburgh in it. Now it's not set in Pittsburgh. It doesn't say the name Pittsburgh, but like there's identifiably things that feel like Western Pennsylvania all over it.
Okay, remind me, because the last time I watched any of Silence of the Lambs was before I moved here, so thinking about Pittsburgh, totally not on my mind.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think is Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall in Oakland. So there's
That's the one I know about.
Yeah, there's they have a grand ballroom in there, which is very pretty. I've been to a couple of weddings in there, so like that was kind of jarring the first time going in for a wedding when I've only ever seen. There's a big scene with a cage. It's kind of gory and gruesome. They actually have a replica on display nowadays. The Allegheny County Jail was used in it. At the time, it was called the Greater Pittsburgh National Airport. So it was the precursor to PIT before the last big redesign of the airport. There was a building in Canonsburg that was used. So that was the Baltimore State Hospital for the criminally insane where Hannibal was being kept. That one, unfortunately, does not exist anymore. It was demolished not too long ago. But the big one is Buffalo Bill's house, which is in Perryopolis, Pennsylvania. And Mallory and I have actually been to it because it is now a functional museum.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like at the time of the filming, it was just a family home that the filmmakers took over to shoot some of the most iconic scenes in Silence of the Lambs. But when that house went up for sale a few years ago, someone from the film industry bought it and turned it into a Silence of the Lambs themed vacation rental.
Very cool.
They do experiences. So it's not open all the time, but they do like guided tours and things. You can book it for overnight stays. He said he's really hoping to like tap into like the bachelorette market, which I think is just like incredible.
When we visited, he said it's a big anniversary spot, which props to whichever couples choose to spend their anniversary or their Valentine's Day there.
Valentine's Day is the one I was laughing at. Looking at these, Mallory. There's like a whole experience and they give you like chocolates and Chianti. I think it's great.
That's so fun.
Well, so speaking of chocolates and Chianti, what are your food picks, Megan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chianti is key, right? Like you obviously Chianti. I recommend Spill Wine Bar in Bloomfield because they specialize in Italian wines. Maybe then a nice bean salad. Enrico Biscotti probably has you covered there. And then lamb chops, rare. There's a couple of really classic Pittsburgh butchers. You could try Tom Friday's Market on the north side or Strip District Meats.
That's a feast.
And if none of these references make sense to you, then you, my friend, are in need of a Silence of the Lambs viewing.
Today's show is brought to you by the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. We know how much yins love finding out about new events here on our podcast and in our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. But if you're looking for even more options, we cannot say enough about the weekly arts and culture events roundups from our friends at the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. Their arts blog has local arts and culture recommendations for every single day of the week, no exaggeration, including exhibits, concerts, performances, films, literary events, and so much more, all happening right here in our region. If you've ever gotten FOMO from missing out on a gorgeous local art opening or an installation that all your friends are posting about, I am pretty sure the Arts Council had the scoop. Be like us and check them out at pittsburghartscouncil.org or follow them on Instagram at PGH Arts Council. Okay, some lesser known films now, a little quirkier, little different. Francesca, what did you watch?
Yes, I watched a movie called Diabolique. It's a 1996 remake of a classic French suspense film. It's where a long-suffering wife and the mistress of an autocratic schoolmaster form an alliance to plot his death. So killing him was actually the easy part, but they run into some trouble when the body goes missing.
Ooh.
It stars Sharon Stone, and Kathy Bates is actually a private investigator in the film, so it has some recognizable faces. And there's definitely some recognizable scenes for Pittsburghers, too. All of the prep school scenes were filmed at the former St. Philomena School on Forward Avenue in Squirrel Hill. And then at one point we go to the mistress's house. Her name is Nicole, which is clearly on the south side. You can see the Birmingham Bridge right behind it. There's a skyline shot view of Pittsburgh, all in her 90s glory. And then the Pennsylvania Turnpike. So we get a wide array. And then a lot of it is actually filmed in Uniontown and Harmony, Pennsylvania, too. So a little on the outskirts.
So then how many bridges?
Yeah, I'm giving it 3 out of 5 for all of the reasons I explained. The clearly visible Pittsburgh landmarks. It also mentions Pittsburgh, the city, a couple of times. And it just really feels like fall in Pittsburgh, like during like this time of year when I'm looking outside. It's actually really fun to see it though. Because it was the year that I was born. So seeing Pittsburgh in 96 was kind of fun. But there was actually one particular thing that felt Pittsburgh to me. It might have gone missed, but I clocked it. So when this sadistic school dean was controlling the purse strings at the school, there was a lunch served, and there was a scene where all the kids and the staff had their plates, and they were eating what I believe to be a Pennsylvania Dutch dish, creamed chipped beef on bread. Have you guys ever heard of the other name for this meal?
No, that sounds really nasty.
Yeah, it's called shit on a shingle. So after the girls kill this guy, literally his name is Guy, the wife then was able to choose what to serve for lunch. And so anyone want to throw out any guesses of what she chose?
Did she go a little more refined with the chipped ham sandwich?
Maybe. I mean, it could be barbecue. I'm thinking like fried green tomato style, you know?
Those are all great guesses. So it was actually fried chicken. And the mistress was like, it wasn't too smart changing the food like that. He would have never done that if he was alive. So she kind of called her out on it. So my recommendations are indeed fried chicken to pair with this movie. And one that I've seen people rave about is Mr. Nick's Fried Chicken. It's a food truck pop-up. You can find them all around the city, so plan accordingly for your movie night. They pop up at Old Thunder Brewing, Inner Groove Brewing, Trace Brewing, Allegheny City Brewing. So just give them a follow and see where they're at. And then, of course, I have a vegetarian-friendly one for my veg heads out there.
Much appreciated.
Yes. So what I'm really excited about is actually a returning place. It's called Verdi. It was on the south side. And now they are taking over the former Wiener World on Smithfield Street. So their fried chicken sandwich, or, fake fried chicken
Chicken
sandwich
with an apostrophe.
yeah, exactly. It looks so good. And then if they're around, Onion Maiden's Chick Habit pop-up is also killer. So follow them, figure out where they're slinging their sandwiches next.
Ooh, Chick Habit's really good. Okay, the next movie I had super high hopes for based on the title. This is Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
It feels like it should get many bridges.
This is a movie where there are a couple cops and a detective's daughter trying to solve like a serial killer murder mystery. They find, a hieroglyphic note, blood-sucking pharaohs. But, in terms of how Pittsburgh it is, does not live up to it. One
Ew.
bridge.
No
Oh.
way. Really? Even with the name Pittsburgh in the title, one bridge?
Yeah, I mean, I was very much on my phone during this movie, but I did not see that much Pittsburgh at all. Apparently, there's a shot with the Doughboy statue in it. But you know what? You cannot have an Egypt-themed movie without the titty sphinx. I think that's an egregious crime, and I'm so mad about
Ooh.
it.
This film should have never seen distribution with an oversight like that.
That's a hot take I'm here for.
I mean, it's kind of a silly watch, but, in terms of a snack pairing, there is this very quick comment about burgers they're eating that, look kind of healthy. So we are all going to join in and have some veggie burgers, not because those are necessarily healthier, but I am skimping on my veggies this time of year and eating way too much candy. I've heard really good things about Butter Joint's Veggie Burger. I really love Cold Friends Kitchen. They're a food truck, and they've also got a veggie burger. It's a mushroom burger. I also found out they're open from midnight to 3 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. So if you are up
Ooh.
super late watching a movie.
That might be the only restaurant in Pittsburgh serving food at those hours.
Exactly. And then if you're into smash burgers, Moonlit's also a great option. They also have Impossible Patties. They have a spot around Duquesne University and then in Dormont.
And Mallory, I think you're finishing us off with the quirkier of the bunch.
Yes, this is a 1992 film called Innocent Blood. It's about a vampire with a moral code. She only feeds on bad guys. So somehow, inexplicably, this French vampire named Marie, please, I had like 4 years of elementary school French, so I'm going to butcher this description. But she ends up in Pittsburgh. I'm not really sure how or why. And then she is reading the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and sees a story about mob violence. So she decides to start feeding on mobsters and then staging the scenes to look like mob hits so that no one will suspect this vampire is on the loose.
That's so smart. I'm so glad we have a girl boss vampire.
This actually checks for Pittsburgh. There were some mobsters here.
Not as openly in 1992, but please keep going.
No, yeah, historically.
I just want to play a little clip from the trailer that sums this up and is also what led me to believe that this film would be extremely fun and campy.
Marie had a hunger to feed on the evil.
You want a ride? You got one.
Michelle's a gangster
Call me Sal.
who's out to take over the city.
What do I call you?
Marie.
Wait, Marie.
What he didn't count on was a vampire
Come on, baby. Relax.
with a taste for Italian.
That's awesome.
That's terrible. Oh, two
Marie.
different reactions.
But I actually given that line about having a hunger for Italian, I really thought this movie would be much campier than it was. There definitely was some camp, but there was also just a lot of mobsters getting into fights with each other, which isn't really my scene. I'm just not that into mafia films. So maybe that made this movie a poor choice for me.
But was it Pittsburgh?
So this movie, from me, gets 5 out of 5 bridges because it is
perfect
extremely Pittsburgh. Yes. I'll say 5 out of 5 with an asterisk, which I'll get to in a second here. But I did find a New York Times article from 1992 about kind of the growing horror film industry in Pittsburgh. And the producer of Innocent Blood said, "We wanted the film to have the feeling of a generic East Coast city with cold weather, but after we saw it, we decided that Pittsburgh should be Pittsburgh." So Pittsburgh is definitely a character in this one. It opens with these sweeping views of downtown. I mentioned Marie reading the Post-Gazette. That happens multiple times. And once she's even reading it in a Pittsburgh Penguins cap.
We stand a
Yes.
newspaper reader around
Yes.
here. Love it.
Yes,
we love
although
it.
she's at a newsstand downtown, which it made me sad. It made me long for yesteryear, which actually this movie in general does. It's really a good time capsule of early 90s Pittsburgh. It shows a lot of stuff that doesn't exist anymore. There's a really climactic scene in front of Pegasus, the old gay club
Right.
downtown that, sadly has closed but was really iconic for years and years. There's, a car chase through the tubes. Somebody shows up in a CMU sweatshirt at one point. She does a killing in a car on Mount Washington, and so it flashes from her, gnawing on this guy to scenes of downtown. I do have to say probably the most Pittsburgh part of this movie is that the mob boss turned vampire escapes from the morgue and steals a car and then crashes it in Shadyside. And it leads to Marie saying, literally in this accent, "How the hell do I get to Shadyside?" Which, for me, that's why this gets 5 out of 5 bridges. However,
What's the asterisk? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
However, here's the asterisk. When they show up at the crash scene in Shadyside, it is actually Squirrel Hill.
Oh,
It's the
No.
intersection of Murray and Ford.
oh, you fact checked him.
But still, this is so Pittsburgh.
Now I'm going to be asking myself that whenever I'm trying to get to the East End. How the hell do I get to Shadyside?
So then in terms of the food pairing, there was really only one choice here. What kind of kicks off this whole plot is that, she meets the mob boss, goes back to his place planning to feed on him, but he tries to serve her a dinner of garlic mussels. And of course, because of the garlic in the dish on his breath, she gets weak and isn't able to fully do the job. And so instead of just dying, he turns into a vampire. So without that plate of garlic mussels, there would have been no driving plot in this film, which means you got to get some garlic mussels to watch it. I can't say I've had many mussels or any mussels in the city of Pittsburgh, but Point Bruges, Park Bruges really are known for their mussels, and they have a garlicky mussel dish. So that's going to be my rec.
They do. And I've had it before. 10 out of 10. Vampires would not approve.
I love this. For the Pittsburgh scenes, I would say definitely this one, Mallory, and the one that I watched, Diabolique, definitely capture the feeling of Pittsburgh.
And I think Silence of the Lambs gets maybe the most like rural stuff, right?
Yes.
Like it never says the name Pittsburgh, but you still feel like you are in Western Pennsylvania. And don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by Tree Pittsburgh. Mallory is chatting with Joe Stavish, Tree Pittsburgh's Director of Education, about a new tool to help you enjoy the city's trees.
Hey, I'm Mallory Falk, executive producer for CityCast Pittsburgh, here with Joe Stavish. He's the director of education for Tree Pittsburgh. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and when I was thinking about moving back here, one of the selling points was just how green the city is. There are so many trees. And I recently learned we actually have 8 certified arboreta. Can you explain to me what that means exactly?
Absolutely. So most people just see the green spaces in city parks and think they're all the same. But an arboretum, simply put, is a designated space for trees, basically for people to learn and enjoy. An arboretum itself can be certified. So you have to have a certain amount of trees. You have to have labels on those trees, dedicate some funding for care of those trees, and celebrate those trees each year.
Like I said, I had no idea this was a thing until recently, so I could not have told you where to find an arboretum in Pittsburgh. And I know Tree Pittsburgh is actually trying to change that now. Tell me about your new website.
Yeah, so what we're putting together is something called the Arboretum Hub. And this is a way to bring people to one location, learn about the arboretum that we have in the city, and also look at videos, maps, fun facts about these, and then be able to go out and explore. These arboretums have existed for a while, but I don't think a lot of the city residents know what they are, where they are, or that they can go look for them and explore and see some really great trees.
So for anyone who's curious, where are the certified arboreta in Pittsburgh?
So they're a little bit spread out, but our webpage will show you the locations. 2 of the locations are some of our older cemeteries, Allegheny Cemetery and Homewood Cemetery. 2 of our universities, Chatham University and Duquesne University, and then some of our city parks. So Mellon Park, Riverview Park, Westinghouse Park, and then the final one is a private property, but open to the public, is the Frick Pittsburgh, or the Frick Museum.
I would have just expected these to be in city parks. So it's cool that places like cemeteries and universities can have that certification too.
Yeah, typically when I see a cemetery up where I live, they don't really have trees. It's mostly grass space. But Pittsburgh really has taken care to preserve mature trees in the cemeteries and also to plant new ones. And so we work with a lot of our properties to keep the trees happy and plant new ones, and so that more people can enjoy them in the future.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to take a tour of Allegheny Cemetery, for example. What kind of information would I find on your new website?
So one of the things you'll find is a video that we create, sort of a video tour of the Arboretum if you don't get to go there on your own. There's also going to be a map to show you where tree highlights are throughout the cemetery. Also, there's designated trees with labels on once you get there so that you can actually, from a distance, see a post with a sign and know that that's a tree you should go explore. We also put on lessons and activities for students, homeschool teachers, educators, so that when they're at the Arboretum, they can interact with a little more than just simply identifying a tree.
Got it. Yeah. Can you tell me about some of the activities that are planned in each Arboretum? What can people expect?
So every Arboretum will receive a tour. It's like in-person tour, and it's free to the public to come out and walk with me, and I'll highlight some of the great trees that are there, and also familiarize people with the location of the Arboretum and sort of the layout. Also, some of the interactive activities that you can download would be like measuring and mapping trees, which are a great way to learn how to identify them, estimate their age, bring in some practical math skills, and hopefully have some fun. There'll be seasonal highlights of what you can expect to see throughout our seasons, because our trees look very unique in different times of the year. They're just kind of opening up the eyes more than just walking through and seeing trees for what they are, but appreciating all the services they provide and wildlife that interact in our Arboretum.
So if people want to learn more, where should they go?
So they should check out Tree Pittsburgh's website, which is treepittsburgh.org, and there'll be a tab for the Arboretum Hub. And that's going to have all the information on there, and it will highlight each of these arboretums specifically so you can learn more about each one. Watch a video tour if you're never able to come down to the city, or take your friends there and show them some of the cool things that you can find in the city. All this is provided through a generous grant from the Garden Club of Allegheny County, and you'll find maps, videos, and more.
Joe Stavish, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Again, you can check out treepittsburgh.org to learn more. We will have that link for you in our show notes so that you're just a click away. Thanks for listening.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you need a little extra Halloween horror in your life, maybe seasonal attractions, fall fests, even pro tips for leaf peeping here in Western PA, make sure you check out our website. That's pittsburgh.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Talk to you soon.
He's vampire curious.